continue to support Ukrainian people in their fight for freedom, independence, and democracy. On February 24th, Russia attacked Ukraine, a democratic, sovereign country in the heart of Europe. Millions of Ukrainians lost their homes. Thousands lost their lives. More than 100 children perished. Russia's unprovoked attack on the people of Ukraine continues at this very moment. Many of you came to Washington, D.C. this weekend to enjoy beautiful cherry blossoms, work around with your friends and families, and take part in many planned peaceful activities. But at this very moment, people of Mariupol, Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Kyiv, Sumy, and many other Ukrainian cities and towns are hiding in the dark, underground, in cramped bomb shelters. They will not enjoy beautiful tulips in Mariupol or fragrant lilacs in Kyiv, my hometown. They're not going to enjoy those peaceful activities this spring. But instead, they will continue to fight for their independence and freedom, for democratic values that we all cherish. They will fight bravely and courageously, defending the fundamental values of a free nation. But Ukraine cannot win this war alone. While the world stands with Ukraine in solidarity, much more needs to be done to stop this mass killing of civilians. Our rally at the Lincoln Memorial, commemorating a US president who safeguarded the freedom of this nation, many freedoms of this nation that we all enjoy. That's a call on the United States to defend Ukraine's freedom and democracy. And we urge our government to close the sky for Ukraine, provide Ukraine with effective air defense systems, and all business, cut all ties with Russia, cut all Russian banks for SWIFT, make their economy suffer, make the oligarchs know that there are consequences of this war that are going to be unbearable for Russia. They will have to pay the price because Ukraine is paying a very high price at the moment. Unbearable price. But the best they're leaving Ukraine now. We also want direct humanitarian aid that would move quickly to Ukraine. And we encourage our government to streamline the process for Ukrainian refugees here in the US and welcome more than 100,000 people from Ukraine here in the US. But we are very grateful for the support of the United States. But we all know much more needs to be done. Each day of the delay costs human lives. Russian missiles strike at the homes and cities of Ukrainians, killing hundreds of innocent children, civilians, men, women, brave defenders. We're all here today to say Putin must see that the free world will not let this continue. The United States must act now, and we encourage you all to act now. Each and every one of you who is here today needs to do something. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do support Ukraine now. Thank you all for coming. We have a full program today with many distinguished speakers who would like to address you. But right now, I would like to invite Alexandra Hrabova and Angeli LaRose to sing Ukrainian and the US national anthems. Alexandra Hrabova is a New York City opera singer. She had her training in Lviv, and now she's performing at best venues in the United States. Angeli LaRose is from Philadelphia, and she is a competitor in American Idol and the winner of Yurmala competition. I would like to welcome you, ladies, to sing Ukrainian and the US national anthems. Please stand.
Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs burst. Say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you so much, ladies. That was wonderful. We're going to be showing you today some videos of our beautiful Ukrainian cities and towns, of our wonderful people, and what is happening now. The video that we're going to show now is about destroyed cities. Russia has destroyed almost 5,000 houses of civilians in Ukraine and forced every fourth Ukrainian from their house, from their home. That's nearly the same number as the population of the state of Georgia or Ohio. Imagine that. Imagine if all people had to leave those states and become refugees. And that's what is happening now to Ukrainians. And it happened in just 1 month. Russia disrupted the peaceful life of many beautiful cities in Ukraine, taking away thousands of lives.
See you about the snow.
Sorry?
I said, see you about the snow with you.
Yeah.
You can see the devastation. You can see the devastation that Russia brought to Ukraine. We will never forget this war. I would like to invite our distinguished guest, Ukrainian ambassador to the United States of America, Her Excellency Ambassador Oksana Markarova. She's heading Ukrainian. Her and so many other diplomats around the world are doing everything possible and impossible to help their fellow Ukrainians. Pani Ambassador.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Marina, and thank you, United Hub, for this wonderful rally. One of many, but very important. Дорогі українці, дорога українська громада, dear Americans and all friends of Ukraine, everyone who today say we all are Ukrainians today. We stand here in Washington, D.C., on the steps of Lincoln Memorial, the eternal symbol of freedom and justice. We stand here on the 33rd day of Kremlin's brutal war against Ukraine. War that started not today and not 33 days ago. War that started many centuries ago. War that 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago, in 2014, Russia started when illegally occupied Crimea and parts of Donetsk and Lugansk territories. A little more than a month ago, although, it turned into a full-fledged war everywhere in Ukraine. We just gathered here a month ago, as you all remember, to celebrate the memory of the Heavenly Hundred, of our heroes, and we were here to send strong message to Russian Federation that in any act of aggression, Ukraine will resist, Ukraine will fight back, and this all attack will fire back at Russia. 33 days ago, Ukraine's history changed forever. It broke into what had been before and what happened after. When the first Russian tank crossed a border of a sovereign nation 33 days ago, and when unthinkable became undeniable. Standing here today, we mourn and lament the lost lives of our courageous soldiers who fought hard to protect our homes, who fight hard to protect our children, women, and protect our future. We mourn the lives of more than 139 already children brutally murdered by Russian aggressors. We mourn the lives of women and men, mothers, daughters, sons, and husbands who died under Russian bombs, shells, and missiles deliberately shot at civilians and at peaceful cities. We mourn today the cities of Mariupol, Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Sumy, Ochtyrka, Bucha, Irpin, and Hostomel, and many more, which suffered the biggest losses, but whose spirit stayed strong and defiant. We mourn, but we do not surrender, and we will never surrender. We grieve, but we stand immensely proud. The Russian army may very well be the second largest army, as they call themselves, but now we all know that Ukrainian army is second to none in bravery and love to our country. We cherish the memories of those who lost lives defending Ukraine and protecting the world from tyranny. And we pray for every soldier who's on the field today, brave men and women who are on battlefields defending every inch of Ukrainian territory. And together we will fight not only this one war, but we are fighting 4 wars at the same time. The war for our independence, and it still goes beyond the right of the self-determination. It's the war to be who we are, to exist peacefully in our territory. We are fighting the war for freedom. Freedom is the cornerstone upon which America is based, but also Ukraine is built. Ukraine is also a land of free and brave. And our flag still is there and will be there everywhere, including Crimea and Donetsk and Lugansk and every city that is Ukrainian. We're also fighting for democracy. We Ukrainians not only believe in democracy, we live it. We like to elect our officials and hold them accountable. We believe that people should have the right to be democratic and live in democracy. And that's why our very brave mayors in every village and city are together fighting with our Ukrainians. And that's why Russians are attacking them. Because even where they were able to temporarily occupy places, people together with their local officials are coming on a daily basis to demonstrations and saying only one thing: you are not welcome here. Go out. This is Ukraine. The Ukrainians are also fighting for humanity. Every day Putin and his generals, I don't even know whether we still call them soldiers because armed forces do not fight like this, demonstrate how little they value human lives. And the thin red line between the right and wrong has been drawn in blood of Ukrainian children and mothers, teachers and students, doctors and reporters, including brave American reporters who on the first line today, together with Ukrainian reporters, showing the truth to the world. But together we will win this war. And because should we lose this war, should tyranny, oligarchy, and brutality prevail, the world will be overcome by continued aggression and insecurity for decades to come. It's of course about Ukraine for us, but it's about much more than Ukraine. This is why Ukraine should not, actually must not, be alone in this fight. This is why we have to act together and we have to act faster and stronger. It took the world too long to comprehend that Putin was a criminal and that Putin was a murderer. This war has shaken off the last facade of the decency and has shown the grim reality of what Russian Federation is today, and has shown that Putin is war criminal, Putin is mass murderer, and Putin is a butcher. My President Zelenskyy, stated recently that truth is our weapon. Our brave armed forces are dedicated and will defend every inch of our territory. But we need all the support we can get, with weapons, with help, with financial assistance, with humanitarian assistance. Because only helped and supported by defensive and offensive military assistance, we can receive from all of our friends and allies and from the United States this truth is will enable us to win. Ukraine will win this war. I just want to repeat it again. Together, we will win this war. Героям слава! And each of us standing here today, and I want to thank you for everything you've done, but everything you will be doing in the days to come. We'll work day and night to bring this victory closer. We are not afraid. Ukrainians will fight, will sacrifice, will endure, will fight fiercely, and do our best, as if victory in this war depends on us and us alone. But we can do it faster and more efficiently and save every possible life that we still can save if we can do it together. Дорога громада, just to finish, I would like to thank everyone, the organizers, but everyone who came and everyone who's doing amazing job 24/7, working together with us, working on holding Russia accountable and working to provide Ukraine with every help necessary. Thank you for making the entire world say today in one voice that we all are Ukrainians today. And also time and time again, let's always remember not to forget that народи мій є, народи мій завжди буде, ніхто не перехлеслить мій народ. Слава Україні! And God bless America!
Thank you so much, Pani Markarova, for those wonderful words that we should all take with us when we go home, when we talk to our friends and families, when we talk to our neighbors, when they ask what they can do. Each and every one of us can do a lot. We would like to show you a video that was recorded several days ago. The war of Russia, as Her Excellency Ambassador Markarova said, is not only the war against Ukraine. It is the war against freedom of all the people in the world. And we know that Russia won't stop with Ukraine. A few days ago, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy addressed the global community, asking the world to stop the war. We would like to show you the video of President Zelenskyy now.
The war of Russia is not only the war against Ukraine. Its meaning is much wider. Russia started the war against freedom as it is. This is only the beginning for Russia on the Ukrainian land. Russia is trying to defeat the freedom of all people in Europe, of all the people in the world. It tries to show that only crude and cruel force matters. It tries to show that people do not matter, as well as everything else that make us people. That's the reason we all must stop Russia. The world must stop the war. I thank everyone who acts in support of Ukraine, in support of freedom, but the war continues. The acts of terror against peaceful people go on. 1 month already. That long. It breaks my hearts of all Ukrainians and every free person on the planet. That's why I ask you to stand against the war, starting from March 24th, exactly 1 month after the Russian invasion. From this day and after then. Show your standing. Come from your offices, your homes, your schools and universities. Come in the name of peace. Come with Ukrainian symbols to support Ukraine, to support freedom, to support life. Come to your squares, your streets. Make yourselves visible and heard. Say that people matter, freedom matters, peace matters, Ukraine matters. From March 24th, in downtowns of your cities. All as one together who want to stop the war.
Those words are powerful. We need to stop the war together. I would like to invite to the stage our great supporter and a distinguished speaker of today's event, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Jovanovic. Thank you.
It is so good to be with everybody today, although a little intimidating to follow the greatest communicator of our era, President Zelenskyy. Yeah, and let's give him a big hand for the incredible job that President Zelenskyy is doing, uniting the Ukrainian people, inspiring the Ukrainian people, but also inspiring all of us and inspiring the world. It is really phenomenal, and yeah, so here I am following him. So as the ambassador said, there are many ways of marking time. You could mark Russian aggression against Ukraine over the centuries, or you could mark it over the last 8 years, or you could mark it over the last month. It's been 1 month that the world has been focused on Putin's war of choice. 1 month since there has been the deliberate destruction of towns and cities and small villages even in Ukraine, the targeting of infrastructure, vital infrastructure, whether it's grain warehouses or fuel depots or other kinds of infrastructure, the deliberate targeting of schools, of hospitals, of orphanages. It's been 1 month since scores and scores of people have been deliberately targeted, innocent people, deliberately targeted and murdered. And these aren't statistics. Each one has a family and friends and a life that did not deserve to be cut short so abruptly. It's been 1 month, which, you know, for me it feels like at least a year, but I'm sure in Ukraine it must feel like a century. I can't even imagine what it feels like. And yet when I talk to my Ukrainian friends, they are encouraging me. They are telling me we are fighting back. We just need you to help us so that we can fight back. And we're fighting for ourselves, but we are also fighting for the free world. And so what we need to do here in the United States is to keep on analyzing, keep on recalibrating as things change on the ground, to see how much we can do, not to take any options off the table, and see how we can support Ukraine so that Ukraine can continue the fight. And I don't need to tell anybody here that this is a fight that is about Ukraine, Putin's weird obsession about Ukraine, but it's also about the battle between tyranny and liberty. Between Putin's world, where might makes right, which endangers everybody in the world, and our world, Abraham Lincoln's world, the man who during the Civil War said, right makes might. Since World War II, the rules-based order has kept us all more secure, more prosperous, and more free. We are a nation of interests, but we are also a nation of values, and we need to stand up for those values, just as Ukraine and every Ukrainian is. We have a stake in this outcome, in the outcome of this war, and we need to do everything we can do to support Ukraine, to support Ukrainians, and to save Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you so much, Ambassador Jovanovic, for your continuous support. I know it's windy. I know it's cold today. It's also cold in Ukraine. It's cold in those bomb shelters. Imagine sitting for days and days, over a month now. People of Mariupol surrounded, bombs, shellings every day in tiny bomb shelters underground. Children not seeing the sky like we're seeing it today. nice and warm. I think we can stand for another hour here in this cold weather.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. And next, I would like to invite Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for Senator Benjamin Cardin, Tom Malia. He was also serving during Obama's administration as an advisor to State Department and USAID. Tom, thank you so much for coming here and supporting us. And we know that Maryland and Virginia states and all other states in the US stand with Ukraine now. Tom.
Thank you very much. I bring you greetings from Senator Ben Cardin and the other members of the United States Congress who are working tirelessly to mobilize support for the people of Ukraine and resistance to the armies of Russia. This story of what has happened in these last 33 days can probably be summarized in a tale of two men. One, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who has galvanized his nation and the world to stand up, to resist, to stand up for freedom, to comfort one another, to learn new skills suddenly in a wartime, and then to resist. It's really quite remarkable, the leadership that he has shown and the way that the people of Ukraine have risen up to his call. In contrast, we have a man in Moscow, whose name I won't say, who has demonstrated that he is nothing less than a war criminal, willing to destroy innocent civilians, infrastructure, residences, hospitals, kindergartens, all in a fruitless attempt to bring Ukraine under the control of Russia. And I think what you need to know today is that on Capitol Hill, over there, people are beginning to start talking not only about delivering more of what Ukraine needs in the humanitarian assistance and the military equipment and munitions, but we're also starting to talk about a Marshall Plan 2.0. Because when the war is won, and the war for Ukraine's independence and sovereignty will be won, there will be a rebuilding to follow. And the United States will be there, perhaps repurposing some of the seized Russian assets that we have claimed in the United States, in the Mediterranean, in Europe. Some of that may be repurposed for the rebuilding of Ukraine. But the United States will also be there, providing Marshall Plan 2.0 for Ukraine. And the time will come when that's necessary. Now, I have to say that President Biden has mobilized the world in support of Ukraine. I think he's done a remarkable job of creative diplomacy and economic diplomacy as well, to bring Russia to its knees and to bolster Ukraine. And yet there's more that we can do. As has been said here, I think there's more equipment can be provided to help Ukraine control the skies. I hope that's coming soon. I was also reminded this morning when I was thinking about the fact that President Biden said over the weekend in Poland that the United States would welcome 100,000 Ukrainian refugees, that we can do more than that too. Ireland, a tiny country of about 4 million people, has announced that they are going to accept 200,000 Ukrainian refugees. And they're making preparations for that right now. They already have 10 or 12,000 arrived in Ireland already, and they're preparing for 200,000 to arrive in Ireland. So if the Irish can do that, I think the Americans can do at least as much. I was reminded of the improvisation that Ukrainians are demonstrating every day in finding ways to sustain their positions, begin to push back Russian troops, to begin to care for their wounded, and to look for ways to rebuild in the near future. This morning when I was leaving the house, I sadly did not have a Ukrainian flag or button to put on my jacket. So I used some painter's tape and a piece of yellow cardboard and realized that it's pretty easy to make a Ukrainian flag. So everybody should have Ukrainian colors. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And with that, I'll let you listen to the next speakers. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Tom. We would like to show you more videos now. As Tom said, there is one thing that we're all taking for granted here: safe sky. We can stand under it right now, feeling safe. But at this very moment, Ukrainians are dying from Russian missiles and bombs that come from the sky above them. Because it's not protected. And that's the reason we ask for no-fly zone over Ukraine. No-fly zone over Ukraine. Ukraine was promised security guarantees after it gave up one of the most powerful nuclear power arsenal 25 years ago. Ukraine was promised air defense systems weeks ago. They're still not delivered. Each hour costs someone alive. The video that we're going to show next of Ukrainian soldier in Mariupol addressing President Biden's administration and other world leaders, showing what this delay makes to Ukraine and asking them to protect Ukrainian skies.
Где ваш дом? Это делает Россия.
Лидеры Америки и Франции, вы обещали нам системы ПВО. Вы дали нам совсем не то, что нужно. Посмотрите туда внимательно. Это разрушенный город. Это лишь часть города, которая разрушена самолетами противника, самолетами России. Вы же говорили, что будет помощь. Дайте нам эту помощь. Байден, Макрон, вы великие лидеры. Будьте ими до конца. Спасайте гражданских людей. Гибнут дети, гибнут старики. Уничтожается город. Он стирается с лица земли. Или вы хотите еще один Алеппо? Вы его практически получили. Дайте Украине ПВО, пожалуйста.
And the next one, following this video, is what we call sky lullaby. Ukrainian children also have a message for President Biden. If you don't close the sky, many of them will die. Let's listen to this lullaby and think of those Ukrainian children who are underground, not seeing the sky, and those over 100, and the toll is rising, over 100 children who have perished during this war.
If you don't glow the sky, I will die. If you don't glow the sky, Mom will cry. If you don't glow the sky, he'll lose home. If you don't glow the sky, they'll be doomed. If you don't glow the sky will still fight. If you don't glow the sky, we'll fill the night. If you don't glow the sky, he might win. Now look in his eyes and sing again.
I would like to invite to the stage Bill Crystal, who is the founding director of Defending Democracy Together and who served as an advisor to President Reagan and Bush's administrations.
Sorry.
Defending democracy, think about it. We're all doing it right now. Ukrainians are defending the democracy of the world. Ukraine is at the front line right now. Bill, please.
Thank you, Marina. It's really an honor to be with you today. As Marina said, defending democracy together. It's an honor to stand in solidarity with all of you, and really, above all, of course, with the people of Ukraine, who are reminding us what free men and women can do under brutal assault from an aggressor, from a dictator who is violating, obviously, all the laws of war and all the norms of decency. And Ukraine is reminding us that free men and women can stand up against aggression, can fight bravely and nobly against aggression, and could win against the aggression of a dictator. So for that, it's an honor here in America. We're not doing nearly as much, obviously, as anything close to as much as people in Ukraine to stand for freedom, but I hope we can do our part to help. But mostly I want to say thank you to the people of Ukraine for reminding us of this important lesson, for reminding us of the cost of freedom, but also of the worth of fighting for freedom. Here in front of the Lincoln Memorial, one really thinks about, we fought for freedom here and suffered terrible losses in the Civil War, and of course, a little bit late, but came to the help of Europe in the 20th century. And once again, I really do hope we can quarrel about some of the details, but I think we are coming to the help of those fighting for Europe in the 21st century. 2022, this year, 2022, could really be a turning point, I think, in the history, of course, of Ukraine and Russia, but also in the history of Europe, but also for the world. I was in the White House in 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell, in 1991 when Ukraine achieved, once again, independence. I've always been proud to have been a very minor, tiny player in the White House at that historic moment. But we should all be proud, I think, to be doing our part to help here 30 years later at what could be a really key moment of reversing the advances of the authoritarians and the dictators, which have happened to some over the last 10, 15 years, of reversing the pessimism about freedom and democracy. And for that, I hope we in America can contribute, but the people who deserve the most credit if this becomes a turning point are the people of Ukraine. And so I want to say we stand with you and we honor your sacrifice, and it's a great, it's to your credit, but really it's an honor simply to thank you for what you were doing over there and to thank all of you for the support you're expressing here. Thank you.
Close the sky, close the sky, close the sky.
Close this sky! 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 Close this sky!
We're not alone in this war. We know that. There is another country that we know of who the Syrian people have experienced that type of war coming from Russia and still do. They know better than anyone else what it means when innocent children die. They saw what happens when Russia comes peacefully to a country. Many of them have witnessed hospitals bombed, elementary schools with science children bombed by Russia. And they support us, and they support Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So I would like to invite to the stage Dr. Tarek Abu Ghazala, who is a board member of American Coalition for Syria. Thank you so much for supporting us and coming to this event.
I would like to salute the free and the heroes of Ukraine. I come here on behalf of Syrian Americans, the American Coalition for Syria. Does this word ring a bell? 11 years. 11 years of atrocities under the Russian army and under Putin. I'm not here to tell you about the 11 years in 5 minutes, but I want to take the 5 minutes to try to tell you what could happen to Ukraine, God forbid, if we do not stand up to Putin and to the Russian army. Because I know what happened. We've been warning about this. We've asked for closing the skies over Syria, and had the skies been closed over Syria, we would not have been here today. We've done everything we could. I bring to you all the salutations from every free Syrian American. And that is why when we heard this bad news, we immediately reached out to the Ukrainian American community. We invited them, we told them, we are at your service, because this is a fight for freedom. Abraham Lincoln was about to lose the Civil War until it dawned on him. This is not about uniting the country, it's about freeing Americans, and thus the proclamation of freeing Americans. Ukraine should stay free. Ukrainians should stay free. If we do not fight this war, we know what is going to happen. And that is why we have all to stand up together, fight it. Ukrainian Americans, people here on the Congress, they work for you. You pay their salaries from taxes. You need to lobby them day and night. You need to shake the foundation here in DC. We will be with you. You need to do that. They work for you. We don't work for them. This is very important. I'm giving you, in a nutshell, 11 years of experience. We are at your service. Again, I salute all the heroes of Ukraine. I salute all Ukraine. And one day, Syria will be free. Ukraine will be free from all those people. Slava Ukrainia.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! I would like to invite Adam Parkhomenko, who is Ukrainian American. He is a political strategist and a former field director of Democratic National Committee. He has very close ties to Ukraine. Just recently, he got news that his family in Chernihiv is in bomb shelter, surrounded. It's something that so many of us here can have experienced and continue experiencing, knowing that our loved ones, our families and friends are still in Ukraine, trapped with no hope. But there will be hope for all of us and for all Ukrainians. Adam, please.
Thank you all so much for being out here today. You don't have to be, you are, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for everything that United Help Ukraine and the other organizations are doing. Today, I want to talk about Boris Nemtsov. Boris was Russia's much-loved Putin political critic and anti-corruption crusader. He was gunned down, as many of you know, February 26, 2015, in the shadow of the Kremlin, on the eve of addressing a massive peaceful Moscow protest against Putin, just before releasing a major report on Putin's war in Ukraine. Boris warned us, but we didn't listen. Many of you did, but many didn't. And we didn't act in time. He said that Putin is war and crisis. Let me repeat that. He said Putin is war and crisis. He brought war and devastation to Chechnya, Georgia, Ukraine in 2014, Syria, and Ukraine in 2022 again. Putin does not promise Russians a radiant future. He offers only slogans like "Make Russia Great Again" and enemy images of the West and his internal critics to prop up his sagging, kleptocratic regime. Thievery is his only ideology. His countless trophies after more than 2 decades ruling Russia include a $1.4 billion palace and a $700 million yacht. And his cronies have similar trophies. Meanwhile, much of Russia continues to rely on outhouses instead of indoor plumbing and a crumbling medical system. Putin's inhumanity is on full display in Ukraine today. Daily, he massacres peaceful children, women and men, and destroys churches, schools, and hospitals in unprovoked war. Putin's war in Ukraine is failing because he only saw Ukraine's uniformed military. He did not see that Ukraine is a military of more than 40 million ready to defend their homeland and lay down their lives if necessary, which they already have been. Putin did not see Ukrainian musicians laying down their instruments and writers laying down their pens to quickly join the territorial defense units and pick up weapons to defend their homeland against an aggressor. Putin did not see women and children supporting them in kitchens and distributing much needed supplies, and young men and women making Molotov cocktails to defend against Russian armed vehicles. Nor could he have ever imagined that the West would unite and act decisively to halt his aggression. Putin needs a trophy to halt his current war in Ukraine. He needs to show Russians on May 9th, Victory Day, a holiday marking the end of the Great Patriotic War, World War II, that he is a victor and controls Donbass, the easternmost region of Ukraine. This is unacceptable. It will give Putin a foothold in Ukraine for further aggression and war, as his recent 8-year hybrid war in Donbass has shown the world. We should never forget Putin is profoundly cynical, and he does not believe in the power of the human spirit to unite people to do good. Putin believes everyone can be bought. There are only 2 principles that guide Putin. Weakness invites aggression, and compromise is a sign of weakness. Putin must be defeated and driven from mainland Ukraine now. We cannot show weakness now. We cannot compromise with evil. Putin is war and crisis. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to its heroes. Thank you.
Герої не вмирають. Heroes never die. I would like to invite to the stage co-organizer of today's event, Yaroslav Hetman, who is also a part of United Help Ukraine. Yaro approached United Help Ukraine and other Ukrainian organizations early in January. I think it was right before New Year's. He said, "The war is coming. We cannot stand still. We have to do something." In 2 days, we organized our first rally that was held January 8th at the White House. It was just 25-30 of us. We were standing there demanding President Biden's administration to listen to us, impose sanctions now. That was our main message. We had too many of those rallies to count. Since January 8th, pretty much every weekend, we were there. Sometimes 20 people, sometimes just 2. And seeing a big crowd today brings hope that together we stand for Ukraine and Ukraine will win this war. Yaro, please take the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Friends, honestly, I would rather not be here. I'd rather be at home with my family today, watching basketball, watching football, walking the dog, doing anything but standing here in the cold and asking the US to do more. But the circumstances demand that we stand here, not just today, but every day. The circumstances that we face, unfortunately, mean that 1/2 of the children in Ukraine today are not at home. They're not going to school or to kindergarten. Unfortunately, 136 of those children will never see their next birthday. 199 of those children are wounded. And tens of thousands of those children are at risk of bombs and missiles every day. It is not with pleasure that I introduce to you the next video. The next video specifically focuses on the children of Ukraine who are dying every single minute because these bombs and missiles do not take a break. One of our biggest requests is for Ukraine to be able to defend its skies, for the US and NATO to give it the right weapons, to give it the Polish jets, and to do more. Meanwhile, the video that we're about to see continues every single minute of every single day in Ukraine. I'd like to bring to stage Tanya. She is the director of the Taras Shevchenko Ukrainian School of Performers. And as Tanya and these kids come up, we can think of no better way to express our message to you and to our government than to bring the people who look just like those kids in the videos, but kids who have a home, who have access to clean drinking water and food and healthcare, but who have a strong message to the kids there and to our government. So Tanya, please.
Slava Ukraini! First of all, I want to thank United Help Ukraine for organizing this amazing rally and for inviting our students to the rally. Today, they want to share with you Ukrainian poems and now quite famous Ukrainian song. These poems are about Ukraine's fight for freedom and Ukraine's brave people and natural beauty. In these difficult times of war, we are doing what we can to support our country, to support our brave soldiers, to support our people. Our children are no different. They advocate, they collect funds, they collect medical and humanitarian supplies, and most importantly, they keep our language and our culture alive. Because this war is not only about land. This war is to erase Ukraine as a nation. This war is to erase Ukrainian as a language.
Unfortunately, this is nothing new for Ukraine. So while standing here, I would like for us, all of us, Ukrainians, to reconsider ourselves. Speak Ukrainian, learn Ukrainian, preserve our beautiful language and culture. This is one of the ways we all together win this war. So now I would like our children to share their poems. We'll start with the one called Kyiv-Me. Kyiv-Me is a lyrical song from the 1960s that is a love poem to Kyiv, a poem that became a popular song and is today the official anthem of Ukrainian capital. In the midst of the savage war that Russia is waging against Ukraine, and particularly the assault on Kyiv, Ukrainian poet Alexander Jovanovic has written a new poem that preserves the rhythm of the original and captures today's reality, the violence being unleashed on Kyiv and its people. But Kyiv stands. It continues to repel the enemy, and it will prevail. My Kyiv by Alexander Jovanovic, written on March 11, 2022. It will be recited by Yarema Stasiuk, the 10th grader of the School of Ukrainian Studies.
Як в ці дні березневі весь народ об'єднався. На землі і у небі суне ворог на нас. Він цілком вже розкрився у суті своїй, але ти не схилився, Києве мій. Ворог силою хвалився, був підступний, мов змій. Але ми не здалися, ми приймаємо бій. Здатись оркам довільним і думать не смій. Ти залишишся вільним, Києве мій. Світ у щирому захваті, аж від захвату змок. Десь далеко на заході сплять Париж і Нью-Йорк. Сплять Європа і Штати. Але ти зрозумій, нам тебе захищати, Києве мій. Ми не будемо прощати, ми забудем навряд. Ще побачить Хрещатик, перемоги парад. І у радісну днину, і в скорботі німій. Я тебе не покину, Києве мій. Дякую.
The next poem is by Serhiy Zhadan. Serhiy Zhadan is a modern Ukrainian Renaissance man, poet, novelist, playwright, rocker, musician, and a national morale booster at this time of this bloody Russian war. In 2015, he wrote a poem about a city that no longer exists. All that's left is ash. It's been burned to the ground, and its inhabitants are scattered throughout the world, carrying suitcases filled with ashes and looking for retribution. So, Serhiy Zhadan, where are you from, you black swarm of birds? Recited by Danilo Kachur.
Звідки ти, чорна валко пташина зграя? Ми, капелани, мешканця міста, якого більше немає. Прийшли сюди, принесли покору і втому. Передай своїм, що стріляти більше немає по кому. Наше місто, то з камені та заліза. У кожного з нас тепер в руці дорожня валіза. У кожній валізі попіл зібраний від прицілу. Тепер навіть у наших снах пахне горілом. Жінки в нашому місті були дзвінки, безтурботні. Їхні пальці вночі торкались безодні. Джерела в місті були глибокі, наче жили. Церкви були просторі, ми їх самі спалили. Найкраще про нас розкажуть могильні плити. Можеш із ними просто поговорити. Даруй нам свою любов, стискай лищата. Тебе ж капелани і вчили сповідувати і причащати. Розкажи нам, навіщо спалили наше місто. Скажи хоча б, що зробили це ненавмисно. Скажи принаймні, що буде покарано винних. Скажи взагалі, що не скажуть новини. Добре, я розкажу вам, що таке втрата. Звісно, всіх винних чекає гідна розплата. І невинних вона, до речі, також чекає по тому. Вона чекає навіть тих, хто взагалі ні при чому. Чому саме ви потрапили до темних потоків? Потрібно було уважніше читати книги пророків. Потрібно було оминати пекельні діри. Для мирянина головне не бачити в тій символи віри. Пам'ятайте, що пророки робили проміння про птахів, які падають на міста. власне втрати. В кінці там взагалі погано. Не буду навіть розповідати. Яка ж між нами різниця? Як між приголосними і голосними? Всі готові сприймати смерть, якщо це не буде з ними. Ніхто і ніколи в цьому житті не омине розплати. Я завжди говорю про це своїм, коли немає чого сказати. Я не знаю нічого про неминучі спокути. Я не знаю, де вам жити і як вам бути. Я говорю про те, що кожному з нас властиво. Як би ви знали, як нам усім не пощастило.
The next poem by Pavlo Tychina. He was a brilliant Ukrainian poet who exploded on the Ukrainian literary scene in 1920s like a meteor. Modern, dynamic, innovative, Tychina wrote poetry that was revolutionary and lyrical at the same time. I am a people whose strength has never been conquered by anyone. No matter what trouble befell me, my strength blossomed again. I don't ask for the right to live. To live, I will break all the chains. I'm affirmation, because I alive. Words that I appropriate today as Russian missiles batter Ukrainian cities and towns. We do not ask for the right to live. We fight for our lives. We affirm because we live. The poem will be recited by Katerina Myriad.
Я є народ, якого правди сила ніким звойовна ще не була. Яка біда мене, яка чума косила, а сила знову розцвіла. Щоб же нікого прав не питаюсь, щоб же я сі кайдани розірву. Я стверджуюсь, я утверждаюсь, бо я живу. Нехай ще в ранах я не стидаюсь, гляджу її, мов пшеницю я рву. Я стверджуюсь, я утверджаюсь, бо я живу. Із ран нове життя захлиситься, що з нього світ весь буде поливать. Яка земля, яке зерно розситься, ну як ж не сіять? Я є народ, яка правди сила, яким звойовна ще не була. Яка біда мене, яка чума косила, а сила знову розцвіла.
And our last poem to today by Taras Shevchenko. In 1845, Ukrainian national poet Taras Shevchenko wrote a poem that was his last will and testament. He asked to be buried in a grave in the vast steppe from where he could see Ukraine's mighty Dnipro river. Shevchenko asks that we remember him in our new family of freedom and liberty. Born a serf, Shevchenko knew the value of freedom and liberty firsthand. Bury me and rise up, break your chains, and anoint your liberty with the blood of your enemies. Prophetic words written for our times. The poem by Taras Shevchenko, Заповіт, Testament, recited by Katrusia Senenko.
Поховайте мене на могилі, серед степу широкого, на Вкраїні милі, щоб лани широко полі і Дніпро, і кручі. Було видно, було чути, як реве ревучі, як понесе з України у синє море кров ворожу. Ой, тоді я і лани, і гори все покину і полину до самого Бога молитися. А до того я не знаю Бога. Поховайте та вступайте. давайте кайдани порвіте, і вражою злою кров'ю волю окропіте. І мене в сім'ї великій, сім'ї вольній новій, не забути пом'янути, не злим тихим словом.
And we want to finish today with a song. I've heard it playing already, and I've heard people sing it, but our children would like to sing it for you in their version. It's called Ой у лузі червона калина. The Gilda Rose is a symbol of Ukraine. As Ukraine was fighting for its independence and right to exist during the First World War, the siege riflemen became famous not only for their bravery, but also for their songs. Songs about the love for the country, bravery and valor. Ой у лузі червона калина is an unofficial anthem of those riflemen. Today, it is still a song filled with longing, patriotism and love. Ukraine is sad, but we will cheer her up. Our country is invaded, but we will liberate it. Our soldiers march to war, but we will preserve their glory. So the first graders of the School of Ukrainian Studies, Tessa Dickey, Roxana Sinenko, Katerina Merritt, Markian і Ярема Качур.
Ой. Ой, у ложі червона калина похилилася. Чогось наша славна Україна зажурилася. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо. А ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо. А ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. Марширують наші добровольці, укривали тан, визволяти зранку українців з ворожих кайдан. А ми наших братів українців визволимо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо.
It's me then.
Наших братів українців визволимо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. Дивися, червона калино, маєш білий цвіт. Не журися, славна Україно, маєш вільний рід. А ми твою червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. А ми твою червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. Гей у полі ярої пшениці, золотистий лан. Розпочали стрільці українці з ворогами тан. А ми тую ярою пшеницю зберемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. А ми тую ярою пшеницю
падемо. Як повіє буйнесенький вітер широких степін, та й послати по всій Україні січових стрільців. А ми тую стрілецькую славу збережемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо. А ми тую стрілецькою славу збережемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей-гей розвеселимо.
Дякуємо, діти, дякуємо вам всім і слава Україні!
Friends, let's give an even bigger round of applause to these little children. Friends, no amount of Russian rockets, bombers, the wind, or a dead microphone will silence the singing there. This singing will continue and has continued every single day, and Ukraine, just like these children, will persevere over any and all circumstances. And I applaud them for going with the flow and switching to this microphone when this one died. So, thank you guys. Friends, Marina earlier mentioned that our first event was on January 8th. There were just 35 of us asking for action and getting together. And I have to say, the day was actually even colder than today, albeit less windy. There was one other person who joined us that day, and it's my pleasure to introduce him next. Kirill Resnik is the Maryland State Delegate, one of the only ones in the United States born in Ukraine. He stood with us that day on January the 8th, and he stands with us here today, calling on our federal government to take action and to stand with Ukraine. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you State Delegate Kirill Resnik.
Good afternoon. It's an incredible honor to be here with all of you today. I want to thank all the organizers who helped put this event together. United Help Ukraine, the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation, the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, U.S.-Ukrainian activists, Razom, Renew Democracy Initiative, and all the other ones. It's an honor to stand here with all of you, with our other special guests, Madam Ambassador, and all the other folks that have spoken to you today and will continue to speak, for the country of our birth and the country of our heritage. Excuse me, I'm sorry. As the first Ukrainian-born American legislator, I feel particularly responsible to be here today. In fact, this weekend, I was on a family trip in Florida. My family is still there, but my wife insisted I fly back this morning. Of course, I do what my wife tells me to do. But I was completely unprepared for the weather, so if you think I'm cold right now, I am. But it is a small price to pay considering what many of our friends and family are going through in Ukraine right now. It's a privilege for us to be here, to live in the United States in relative comfort, away from the bombs, away from the missiles and the planes and the destruction. It is incumbent upon us, because of that privilege, for us to make sure that the message of Ukraine resonates, not just here, but throughout the United States, throughout Europe, and throughout the known world. We have to make sure that our friends and family fighting for their homes and their lives are not just honored, but helped and supported. They have to be helped with equipment, with humanitarian assistance, with diplomatic pressure, and assistance with refugees escaping the war zone. Refugees like my family was 44 years ago. The United States welcomed us then, and we need to welcome the refugees coming now. If there is a silver lining to this horror, it's that the world has spoken in almost united voice against the Russian invasion, against Putin, against his regime, and have worked to isolate him financially, diplomatically, socially. Those of us elected in Maryland, we've tried to do our small part. My colleagues and I voted unanimously to pass a resolution that I sponsored to stand in support of the government and the people of Ukraine. We did it unanimously, regardless of geography, regardless of party. Every member of the Maryland General Assembly voted together. We voted also unanimously to allow our state pension to divest from any and all Russian-connected investments. We did it unanimously. Our governor has called on review of every state contract to be reviewed and canceled if any Russian linkages are found. And just last week, we sent 50 ventilators to Ukrainian hospitals, ventilators that we purchased during the COVID crisis, but have been sitting and collecting dust. They could be put to good use, and they were. There's a lot more that we can do, but we are a small state. But if every state did what Maryland has done, we would be much further along. And I call on every one of my colleagues in every state legislature and every governor in every governor's mansion in this country to do what we have done: divest from Russian investments, review your contracts, and cancel them if any linkages are found. As the first Ukrainian-born legislator, I find it prophetic that I was elected in Maryland. We have a kinship that you may not know about. Maryland has a nickname. It's called the Old Line State. What most people don't know is that we got that nickname from General George Washington. We got that nickname during the Revolution when a line of Maryland militia stood their ground at the Battle of Long Island, cut down almost every one of them, but allowed the American colonial army to escape, regroup, and eventually win their independence. Today, there is a new line. That line is in Ukraine. That line is holding against forces that are not planning on stopping in Ukraine. We know what Putin wants to do. We know that if he is not stopped in Ukraine and not turned and sent back, that Moldova, that Georgia, that Latvia, that Poland, and many other countries will be next. So Ukraine is the new Maryland. It is the new line holding against the forces of tyranny. When Napoleon tried to conquer Europe, it was the Russian winter that stopped his eastern advance. When Hitler tried to conquer Europe, it was the Russian winter that stopped his advance. But today, it's a Russian winter that is trying to sweep its cold breath of destruction across Europe. Unlike the past, it will not be the cold, but rather the heat from the freedom-loving people of the world, led by Ukraine, that will stop their western advance. I ask for you to continue your advocacy, continue your fight, continue your support for Ukraine as if the future of democracy depends on it. because it does. Slava Ukraina!
Friends, what more can I add to that? If the United States federal government acted like the state of Maryland, we may not even need to be here. So thank you, Kirill. It is my pleasure next to introduce you another representative from Maryland, again showing the strong support. Mr. Luis Barunda is the Maryland Deputy Secretary of State. Mr. Luis.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to start off by acknowledging the Ukraine President Zelenskyy. He's a hero who stands in a nation of heroes. And it's unbelievable the way that he has united the world. I also wanted to thank Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador Markarova, who spent some time with us this afternoon. I wanted to thank all the other distinguished guests, my colleagues from Maryland. But I wanted to take a special moment to thank those Ukrainian Americans who have served this country so faithfully. I wanted to thank these gentlemen over here and all of you in the crowd who have served this nation with excellence. I would also like to thank Marina, the co-founder of United Help Ukraine, and all of the other organizing committees who put all this together today. I'd like to mention that Governor Hogan from Maryland on February 24th made these remarks. Putin's attack on the Ukraine is not just a barbarous military assault from a deranged autocrat. It is an attack on the right of sovereign nations and free people to choose their own destiny. All that America stands for in this world. Since Russia's attack on the people of Ukraine, the state of Maryland has done several things, and the good delegate mentioned many of them. I think he was reading my remarks. One of the first things Governor Hogan did was to end our 30-year subnational relationship with Leningrad. Governor Hogan ordered all state agencies and our state pension system to make sure that they did not invest in any Russian companies and divest the state's investments that they had in Russia. The Maryland Department of Health has donated 50 portable ventilators to the Paul Chester Children's Hope Foundation, a nonprofit helping to treat children and adults who have been wounded during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Maryland Secretary of State John Wobensmith asked me to spearhead an effort working in partnership with the Ukrainian Embassy, the National Medical University in Kyiv, and Maryland Dr. Michael Finnegan to provide behavioral health assistance and training in the Ukraine. Dozens of Maryland nonprofits and churches are doing their part to provide humanitarian assistance as well. In my lifetime,
I have never seen the world so united against a despot. In my lifetime, I have never seen the world so united in the cause of freedom. In my lifetime, I have never seen the courage of a people on display before the world as I have seen it in the people of Ukraine. Unlike some who do not know how Ukraine will prevail against the Russian military machine, I believe that the Ukraine people know why they fight. I also believe that Ukrainians know why they will win. Let me share this with unbelievers. If you know your why, the how doesn't matter. I will conclude my remarks with Governor Hogan's words. This unprovoked aggression demands a unified and resolute response from America and our allies. Putin and Russia must face devastating consequences. If we fail to stand for freedom, Europe and the world will be a much darker and more dangerous place. Glory to Ukraine.
Well, friends, I can tell you that the next home my wife and I will buy will be in the state of Maryland, because the amount of support is truly amazing. Friends, I'm standing here in a full winter coat. I don't know about you, but it's kind of chilly. But all these speakers from Maryland are in their suits. But the next individual I'm about to introduce to you really surprised me. His name is Pastor Evan Mawarire. He's from Zimbabwe, and he's going to be in a suit. I have no idea, but more power to him. But to introduce him to you a little bit more, he's the Director of Education at the Renewed Democracy Institute. But he's one of the founders, the founder of #ThisFlag, the movement against Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe. Just like we had a speaker from the Syrian group today, it's important for us to show that Vladimir Putin is not the only evil dictator, but for Mr. Mawarire to hear how they were able to successfully take down another brutal and ruthless dictator and to also stand with Ukraine. So with that, I'd like to welcome Pastor Evan Mawarire.
Thank you so much. It is a huge honor for me to stand in a place where men of the cloth like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood to speak and demand justice. It's an honor for me to carry on that tradition today, to stand with the great people of the nation of Ukraine, to stand against tyranny. And so today we stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. And more that we are intimidated by the cowardice of tyranny, we are inspired by their resolve to reject and to resist the destruction of their nation, their heritage, and their democracy. Ukrainians today face the sharp end of the spear of senseless, authoritarianism that, although is seen manifesting in their country, is actually threatening to pierce democracy globally. As someone who has faced brutality in my own country, Zimbabwe, where we stood up to a dictator, as ordinary citizens, we built a citizens movement, and we stood in the streets as you stand here today. We stood in the streets as your brothers and sisters stand in the cities of Ukraine and defied the dictator in the same way that they do today. We were beaten, we were imprisoned, we were tortured, but we stood. And so, as someone who has faced that same brutality, I understand what it means to be assaulted for my belief in democracy and for defending the valuable gift of freedom that it gives. This is what dictators hate. The fact that people like you and me can participate in deciding how we are governed. The fact that people like you and me can be brave enough to say that we will fight for our freedom. Putin hates it that Ukrainians have defied him and resisted him. He hates it that her allies have stood by her. He hates it that the world is uniting for an idea so much better than his own of murder and destruction. But we are not moved by hate. Our love for better humanity drives us. Our belief in freedom, peace, and justice spurs us to be stronger and to be better than he is. And we, together with you, will never, ever back down or give up. It is this freedom that we watch our brave Ukrainian brothers and sisters defend, because they understand what it means to have freedom, but they also understand what it means to have it blatantly and brutally wrestled from them in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and in their cities. Today, Ukraine calls us not just to watch their bravery, but to respond with an understanding that freedom is vulnerable when we, the people of the world, stand by and do nothing to support it. Renew Democracy Initiative, of which I am a part of, is proud to have partnered with you thus far and to continue to mobilize resources for Ukraine. Beyond that, we are educating and inspiring the citizens of the world to once again rally and to stand up for the cause of democracy. We are partnering with university students, organizations, and governments to teach why in this very hour we must protect democracy globally with everything that we have. We must learn that none of us are free until all of us are free. And so we stand here today to remind the people and the leaders of the free world that Ukraine must not stand alone, that she must not stand alone against this threat. And if history is anything to go by, then now is not the time to be silent or slow to act. Ukraine needs more than kind words and tough stances. She needs more than media blitzes and rallies. She needs more to stand strong and to be a beacon that renews all our belief in the power of freedom. And so, from the voices of freedom in Zimbabwe, we stand with you, Ukraine. From the voices of justice in Uganda, we stand with you, Ukraine. From the voices against oppression in Venezuela, we stand with you, Ukraine. From the voices of freedom in Iran and even in China, Ukraine, we stand with you. Today the world stands with Ukraine, and we proudly and loudly declare, Slava Ukraine. Thank you.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Slava Ukraini! Friends, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the next speaker, who, like Pastor Mavarire, who did a fantastic job in bringing this to bear, that there is so much that we can do. I'd like to introduce to you Uriel Epstein. He's the Executive Director of Renew Democracy Initiative and one of our co-founding partners for this event. Without further ado, Uriel.
I really do not think it is fair that I have to go after Pastor Mawarire. So thank you all for coming out tonight, today. My father was born in Moscow. My mother in Kiev. And just over a month ago, I watched in horror as my father's country attacked my mother's. 50 years ago, my dad risked his life in Russia fighting a dictator. Just like today, countless Ukrainians are risking theirs. My dad didn't take up arms against the Soviet government. He didn't try to sabotage the Soviet military. So what did he do? He tried to wear jeans. He got a haircut that looked like Elvis Presley. He refused to cry when he heard that Stalin had died. My dad didn't want to live as a dissident. He didn't want to fight the government. He just wanted to wear jeans and listen to rock and roll. Ukrainians today don't want to fight this war. They want to live their lives. Some of them want to go to hipster cafes in Kyiv. Others just want to tend to their farms in peace. But now, in order for them to do these things, they have to fight. Computer programmers have to put down their keyboards and pick up AK-47s to join the front lines, ready to shoot. Female parliamentarians have to split their time between the Ukrainian parliament and training with their units to defend their families. All because of one man and his megalomania. My family's story is about the consequences of letting rulers like Putin go unchecked. We didn't stop him before, and Ukrainians are now paying the price in blood. If we don't stop him now, how many more must pay that price? Dictators never stop. They are stopped. We must stop him. That's why I'm here. It's not just about my own personal family history. I'm committed to the work that we do at the Renew Democracy Initiative because I know that freedom anywhere is a threat to tyranny everywhere. Putin attacked Ukraine because he couldn't stand the prospect of a free, democratic, and prosperous neighbor on Russia's border. A country that could give Russian citizens dangerous notions about the possibilities of freedom. And his assault on Ukraine isn't just an attack on a sovereign country. It's an attack on democracy itself. It affects all of us. The head of NATO called our existing support for Ukraine unprecedented. He's right. But the situation is unprecedented. And if we want democracy to persevere, we have to step it up. We cannot continue giving Ukrainians just enough to survive. We have to give them what they need to win. And as the ambassador said, make no mistake, they can win. So let's imagine two scenarios. In the first, we keep doing what we're doing. We keep giving Ukraine defensive weapons, but we don't give them what they need to stop Russia's indiscriminate bombardment of Ukrainian cities. In this scenario, we will see thousands more killed, Ukraine divided, Putin emboldened. If we're too scared to properly defend democracy in Ukraine, will Putin believe that we'll defend it in other countries? What about in our own nations? He's already attacked elections in the US and in 26 other countries. Do you think he'll stop if we show restraint? On the other hand, if we step up and send Ukraine the anti-air systems, the anti-ship missiles, the planes, the armor that they need to successfully push back on Russia, Putin will have finally suffered a military defeat. His regime will be weak, and the free world can once again regain its confidence. And for those saying that we must avoid World War III, I have news for you. We are already in a global war between tyranny and freedom. The question that I have for everyone here, for the US and for the free world, is will we do what it takes to win? Slava Ukraini!
Thank you, Uriel. Thank you for highlighting that sometimes simple actions of defiance can make a world of difference. Just like wearing jeans and having an Elvis Presley haircut, the people in Kherson right now who refuse to bow down to the Russian military, who come out every single day and sing the Ukrainian national anthem, they're making a similar difference. As well as smaller cities all across Ukraine, as well as all of you who continue to be here and to brave the cold. And I promise we're getting closer to this event wrapping up. But as a quick break from speakers, we'd like to bring back our two wonderful singers, Anjali LaRose and Alexandra Khrabova, for two quick song performances before we finish up with our last speakers. So please, Anjali and Alexandra.
Зарався навесні, вийти у світ незнамий між лагами, сорочку мати вишила мені червоними і чорними, червоними і чорними нитками. Кольори мої, по кольори, у мене понад you. Glory to Ukraine!
Friends, I don't even have words. Ukrainian is not her native language. She doesn't even know Ukrainian, but that performance is earth-shattering. So let's give another round of applause for Miss Angelique. Friends, I'm welcoming back to stage Alexandra Rabova.
Чорнобривці насіяла мати. Слова цієї пісні зіткані з моїх клітин. Україна, наша рідна країна, наша мати. Це та земля, де ми народилися і живемо. Це земля наших батьків, дідів і прадідів. Усім нам безмежно дорога мати Україна. І хоч би куди не закинула наш доля українця, його душа залишається там, де тихі води, ясні зорі, де наше коріння, хлопці на війні, і мама їх чекає. Нехай кожен повертається додому живий, а чорнобривці народжують пам'ять про маму. Низький вам уклін, матері України. Чорнобривців насіяла мати у моїм світанковім краю, та й навчила веснянок співати про квітучу надію мою. Як на тій чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мама, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Я розлуки і зустрічі знаю, бачила у чужій стороні чорнобривців із рідного краю, що насіяла ти навесні, як на тій чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Як на тій чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Прилітають до рідного поля із далеких країв журавлі, розцвітають і щастя, і доля на моїй Україні. оновленій землі врага не буде супостата, а буде син, і буде мати, і будуть люди на землі. Слава Україні!
Я пишаюся нашою мовою. Я знаю, що Україна переможе, що ми це відстоїмо. Слава Україні! Sorry, I took a break to transition to Ukrainian because I'm proud of my language and I'm proud of hearing such a wonderful performance, two such wonderful performances. Thank you all for braving the cold and for staying. The next speaker I'd like to introduce is another co-organizer, Ms. Nadia McConnell. She is the president of the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation and a supporter of Ukraine's independence and rights for many decades. Nadia, please.
How does anybody follow those two absolutely beautiful, amazing voices that we heard from? Fortunately, some of the words I will be telling you are not mine, you know, we've been supporting U.S.-Ukraine relations since our founding in 1990, and we have believed that a strategic partnership between Ukraine and the United States is more than needs to be deeper than the bilateral. We believe it needed to go down to the grassroots, and I am therefore proud that we were able to bring thousands of what I call non-hyphenated Americans to Ukraine to form those bonds that have lasted for decades. 2 days ago, I received this message as I was struggling to decide what I was going to say, and I decided to just read this to you. This is from Sandy Turner, who participated in our community partnership projects from Athens, Georgia. She writes, on September 15, 2001, I flew to Lviv, Ukraine on one of the first planes to leave the United States after 9/11. I was headed to Kamenets-Podilsky, a medieval town full of castles and history, as part of the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation's Community Partnership Program, CPP we called it. The team made up of representatives from the University of Georgia and Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia. We were going to work with our Ukrainian peers to strengthen local government services. The first thing I noticed was the color of the soil. It was a black so dark and so rich, I have never been able to describe its intensity or fragrance. Minerals so dense, I could smell them from our van. It helped me understand why I had grown up knowing Ukraine as the breadbasket of Europe. The most important impression I have of Ukraine is the kindness of the people. We were treated like royalty. Every meeting started with gifts, local delicacy, and vodka, even at 10 in the morning. Our host wanted to know us as people first. They took us to see the natural treasures in the countryside. They took us to schools to meet the future of their country, kids in their late 20s now, and deeply impacted by this senseless war. They performed traditional dances and taught us to dance them. They made us bread and blintzes and borscht. Every meal ended with toast, sappy and profound, and to the horses. Toasting in Ukraine is an art form full of structure and tradition. The first toast is to the meeting. the third toast is always to women in love. And the 10th toast to gratitude. And yes, you always get there. And so on until you get to the aforementioned horses. Well, really, this is what they say in Ukraine, na konya, which means one for the road. The memory that haunts me today is from a late night with our translator, Yaroslav, talking about things politically inclined Americans talk about. Equality, gay rights, music, elected officials. Yaroslav was silent. At some point, we asked his thoughts. He said, I quote, "You all speak with such freedom. We could never talk with such abandon for fear of retribution," unquote. Independence had come to Ukraine 10 years earlier, and the specter of the Soviet Union with its repression and violence loomed large in their psyche even still. We fell silent. The sudden knowledge of our privilege cutting through the vodka and the revelry. We have no idea what it is to live like this. Tonight, I'm praying for all of Ukraine, my friends and those I've never met, and I'll make a 9th toast to the warriors with a prayer that go home soon, safe to their loved ones. I don't think I could have said anything better. March is Shevchenko month. And of course, all of you know that I always have to bring him into the picture. So here in Washington at 22nd and P is the Shevchenko monument that we worked very hard to get erected, because even then, Soviet propaganda attacked the idea of placing this monument here in Washington. And Taras Shevchenko wrote in 1845, "How long must we await our Washington with a new and righteous law? Our wait indeed won't be in vain." Since independence, the people of Ukraine have been building that system of fair and just laws. The statue you see on this slide is one in Chernihiv. When I saw it a few years even before the war in 2014, I was struck by it because here, this is Chernihiv, that now has been destroyed, a beautiful city. And we see Shevchenko and modern day Ukrainians on that bench, and that little girl leaning into Taras Shevchenko. I will end with another quote that is on the monument here in Washington, and it says, "Fight, you'll win the fight. God is helping you. Behind you stands the truth and sacred liberty as well." This is what the people of Ukraine are fighting for. Sacred liberty. We have all been struck by the worldwide outpouring of support. It's a phenomenon that I think we still have yet to really understand and appreciate. And we welcome all the people that are standing with Ukraine, but specifically the people of Ukraine. Just yesterday, I met a few people who want to lend their talents to join us in this struggle, to get what people of Ukraine need, besides the weapons that they're not asking us to fight their fight, they just want the tools to fight them. The humanitarian crisis that looms. We launched Operation Ukraine Airlift because unlike when we worked with United Help Ukraine in 2014-15, we were sending ships. And of course, that just not is good enough. So we have to find ways to get to airlift it. There's been a lot of suggestions of things that we can do and ask for. I'd like to just add one very specific thing. I have been worked with Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur in 2015 and today to see if we can get our government to allow the National Guard to help deliver humanitarian assistance. This is something that I think we should be able to do now. Yes. I want to introduce, as I say, we just met yesterday, and I'd like to introduce George Kozakos, nice, good Ukrainian name, no Greek, who came in from California to help join in this struggle, and also Ben Lorenzen. I have a hard time with these ethnic names. A third person I'd like to introduce and actually invite to say a couple of words is Brian Hardgroove from the legendary hip-hop group Public Enemy, and also WeCare.world. Brian.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all out here. It would be nice if it was under a different circumstance, but we're here, all right? I started my career far enough back to have been behind the Iron Curtain, or close to it, okay, in Berlin, and it was ugly. It wasn't pretty at all. And we do not need to go back to those days. The people of Ukraine don't want it. No one wants it. The Russian people don't want it. And I've got friends from all around the world. I've got lots of Russian friends and more Ukrainian friends than I realized, you know, that I'm finding out are Ukrainian. And these are the worst circumstances to find that out. But as musicians, we're blessed to see the best side of people. And Ben, my brother, Ben Lorenzen, we've been in bands together since we were kids, sort of. And he outgrew me, but it's okay. And we decided to freshly mint a new organization called We Care. And the website should be up in about a couple of hours, WeCare.world. And we have committed to bringing as many of our musician friends as we can to this very spot, teaming up with Nadia next May 21st, okay? So we'll get the information out to you, and hopefully we'll see you here back, and we're gonna make as much noise as we can, get the people of the United States to stand up, speak up, and get our government moving. We elect representatives, not leaders, okay? Always remember that. We elect representatives, and we must get them to represent what we want done in this world, all right? And our brothers and sisters need us, and we cannot turn our back now, and this is for everyone. Ukraine, this has to end. This type of calcification and just letting things happen, it needs to end with this hopefully final ridiculous aggression. All right, so we're here for you, and we'll be back. And God bless you. All right.
Thank you, Ms. McConnell. Thank you for that wonderful speech and for also talking about what we're going to do in the future, because this event does not end here. Friends, our next speaker is Nadia Shaporinska, President of UKRES, Ukrainian Activists.
Hello everyone. I would like to say good afternoon and happy spring. But with our beloved Ukraine and its people still under Russia's barbaric assault, it is hard to feel any real happiness right now. Last time we met here at the Lincoln Memorial was February the 20th, 4 days before the full-scale invasion by Russia. It feels like 100 years ago, an eternity. After 1 month of Russia's cruel and criminal war on Ukraine, there are 10 million displaced persons, or 1/4 of Ukraine's population, which includes 3.6 million refugees who have fled to other countries. There are more than 3,000 dead civilians in the city of Mariupol, and all of its residential buildings have been damaged or destroyed. The so-called military targets Putin said he was going after. Meanwhile, in 1 month, about 140 innocent children were killed and about 200 were injured. One little girl, an inspiring gymnast and dancer, was trying to escape with her mother when Russian soldiers opened fire on the car she was in. The bullets went through her jaw and tongue, almost hitting the artery. She is alive, but can barely walk and will need intensive and prolonged therapies. So many young lives cut short.
iPhone that you are
So
watching this
many
live stream
dreams
through
destroyed.
basically started having a glitch out, I think, because
Russia
of the
is
temperature.
bombing indiscriminately
I'm pretty much unable to keep filming.
churches, schools,
So
museums,
I will have HD footage up of several of
historical
the speeches
monuments
later
and
on
other
the News to Share
purely
YouTube
civilian
in
targets,
particular.
trying to
So stay
destroy
tuned for
Ukrainian
that.
history
Again,
and
my
culture.
apologies for cutting this
More
live stream a
than
little bit short, but I
1,200
believe there's
missiles
only a
have been
couple of
dropped on
speakers
Ukraine
left.
cities.
As a quick recap, the
Mariupol,
Russian
Chernihiv,
ambassador to the United States spoke, as well as Bill Kristol, who was the chief of staff to the vice president the first George Bush administration. So, and that was Daniel Quayle. So, with that, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.